What's going on, guys? Brian Fonseca here with On the Banks here with Aaron Breitman. We just finished watching an unbelievable game here at the RAC. Rutgers 73, I believe. Seton Hall 60 something. It doesn't matter.
71-65, but
it doesn't matter. The point is, Rutgers was on the right side of victory for this game. Just an unbelievable game. Personally, the best I've ever seen the RAC. I don't know if you've ever seen a better atmosphere here, but just unbelievable. So we'll start off there. What did you think of the atmosphere at the RAC?
It was fantastic. You know, we were fortunate enough. Press row was so busy that Brian and I sat right in the student section in the first row, right next to the Seton Hall bench, and the atmosphere was electric. Literally, my keyboard was shaking, our floor was shaking, our table was shaking late in that second half, and it was an unbelievable effort. I'll be honest, when they were down 9, you know, it was kind of like, here we go again. Here's that rerun of we were close but no cigar. To see this team pull it together and play the way they did, it was really an unbelievable feeling.
Before we get into the gameplay, I want to ask you the all-important question that's kind of been lurking this season. Is the RAC back?
I think absolutely. I think the marketing team for Rutgers has done an amazing job. That video that they put out last night was unbelievable.
Electric.
And then when they played that before the game, and then they gave out the red glow sticks, I mean, the place was rocking before the game even tipped off. The student section was fantastic today, but just to see, you know, the very top of the RAC filled up again for the first time I've seen it in many years, and the way this place shook. Yeah, I think without a doubt the momentum, what was so big about this game is it builds momentum now for January when the students get back, when Big Ten play starts. I was worried, you know, last year even we had a couple games where the RAC was really packed and Rutgers lost, and we didn't see it that way again. So I think this can really be a momentum builder for this building and for this team in packing the place game in and game out.
Yeah, I've been covering this team for around 3 years now, and I've never seen as many people in the upper deck as I did today. Just unbelievable. Great day for Chris Ash to bring his last round of official visitors to the RAC. They seem to really enjoy it. Recruiting coordinator Omar Hales was behind me just going nuts, bananas during that last stretch of the game. And again, before we get into the meat of what happened in this game, why everyone wants to talk about, Rutgers was down early, as you mentioned before. They were down 13 in the first half. They really had to fight back a couple times. They tied it up a couple times in the second half. And Seton Hall kept going back on runs and taking the lead, and it always felt like Seton Hall was going to pull away. Rutgers just kept coming back, and then Corey Sanders happened. He had a great first half, but his second half, towards the end, was unbelievable. Hits a couple of huge shots. Just what did you think of Corey Sanders' performance, especially down the stretch when he had to? When we talked about before the game, Rutgers needs a guy who can make the shot, either when they're down 6 and they need to close out, or when they're up and they need to pull away, and Corey Sanders was that guy today.
I mean, I think you could say it's been, you know, as great as Corey Sanders has been in his career, you know, he struggled down the stretch in games, partly not due to his fault, a lot with, you know, just the stress and the pressure that's on him to handle the rock the whole game. And I think that's where Geo Baker is a huge difference on this team. You saw him make a couple big shots down the stretch, but taking that pressure off Corey, Corey played most of the game off the ball, and he just had that confidence at the end of the game, and I think that was the difference in terms of this team willing themselves, and the leadership of Corey, Deshaun, and Mike Williams, truly getting this team to not back down and keep fighting. When we all thought, you know, there were periods, I mean, they were down 13 2 different times in this game. They were down 10 at the half. They were down 9 with 6 minutes to play. It's really unbelievable they were able to pull this out. Yeah,
just I think we can go down the list of the roster and talk about all the contributions the guys made. Just everyone had a part to play. Mamadou Decor played 7 minutes. The other minutes were taken by Shaq Dorson and Candido Saw, who played some unbelievable defense on Angel Delgado, sorry about that. He did get 20 boards, which, when Corey Sanders realized that in the post-game press conference, was the highlight of the conference, in my opinion. He was just baffled. But they played some great defense, and that was really the focus of Steve Pikiell's post-game talk. Really didn't want to talk about anything other than the defense down the stretch in the last 6 minutes and the poise of this team. Defense is really what he built this program off of, and what makes his team so successful. So it must be very satisfying for him to see that defense come through in an important game. As you mentioned, this really builds momentum going forward, heading into Big Ten play. Rutgers has a couple more non-conference games, if I remember correctly, before they get into the meat of their Big Ten schedule, but promising signs to look ahead from this game.
I mean, if you look at it, and Pikiell touched on it in the post-game, you know, they did not play their best game. They shot 34% from the field. Yeah. You know, they were even on rebounds. They lost the points in the paint. They lost second chance points. You know, usually if you say that about Rutgers, there's no way they're going to win that game. So, you know, the statistics make it obvious obvious that they outplayed Seton Hall down the stretch. I think you know, they never gave up, and it was very satisfying to see this team, you know, be so close, including last year. Several close games they had together, and already this year with Florida State and Michigan State. You know, I think you could argue that having those 2 Big Ten games earlier this season really made a difference in this game.
Yep.
Because last year when they played Seton Hall, it really was the first time they had played a team at that level, and they came out great, and then they fell apart in the second half, and really it was the reverse this time. You know, they didn't play that well in the first half, and we both looked at each other at one point, and we were nervous that it was going to be a 20-plus point Seton Hall win, and things just turned. They just wouldn't go away. They hung around, and I think Seton Hall kind of didn't expect them to hang around the way they did, and obviously the crowd was fantastic. But just to see those guys, especially Mike Williams, you know, for him to grab that rebound at the very end, that really sealed the victory, and to see the emotion that he had, and see Corey Sanders play with more emotion than normal, it was great to see these guys get the payoff for all the hard work, and guys like Mike Williams have stuck with the program, you know, through the Eddie Jordan era, and sticking with Pikel, and for those guys, you know, even 2 years ago, how empty this place was, and 7-win season, and then now they're sitting 10-3. They get you know, their first ranked win in a long time, in front of the best crowd in years. It's really an amazing day.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We can pretty much talk about this all night long. Biggest win for Rutgers in I don't even know how long. Probably since the Wisconsin win at the end of the Eddie Jordan era, but truthfully that was a flash in the pan. It didn't result in anything, and this can kind of really big and build into something big. Just one last thing, the post-game press conference with the Seton Hall players was very entertaining because it showed that this rivalry is back. Ish Sanogo blatantly showed how much he dislikes Rutgers and said he doesn't want to be friends with any of the Rutgers players. Both him and Miles Powell said that the atmosphere was all right. They both said that the Prudential Center can get louder, can be better. They've played in better places, but whether they're saying that truthfully or if they're saying that out of frustration from the game, it's obvious that this is back. This rivalry is back. The rack is back. Rutgers basketball, to be declared if it's back, but this is certainly promising signs. Do you have any last thoughts?
Well, I would just say back to that Wisconsin win. I know a lot of people bring up that win, and it truly was a great win, but the biggest difference in that game is that they were down 2 of their starters, including National Player of the Year, Frank Kaminsky. Yep. You know, this was Seton Hall, the best Seton Hall team they've had in years. I really think the Seton Hall team has Final Four potential. They need to prove that they can do it in the postseason, but I really think it's the most talented Seton Hall team we've seen in over a decade. So for that point, you know, I think this is the biggest win for Rutgers basketball in many, many years. I'm a little bit at a loss as to give you exactly when, but for me personally, you know, in terms of this rivalry, you know, this stands out very near the top, and it's an instant classic.
Yep. I'll leave you guys with this. This is 100% Steve Pikel's first signature win. I felt like this program really needed that win with Steve Pikel, and he's never really lost a game he should have won. I think that's the point that not a lot of people talk about. Steve Pikel has won all the games he should, and he's come close to winning the games like this, and he finally comes over and gets over the hump. We'll see where it goes in the future, but for now, for On the Banks, I'm Brian Fonseca. This is Aaron Breitman. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot.
And shout out to our own Dave White, who is up in the cheap seats, and he'll have his post out soon. But he's got to be thrilled as well. So and congratulations to all our fans out there.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.